I think you're muted.
Yep. No, I'm just playing around right now. Okay, I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing
As I'm
great. Doing great. Thank you so
unmuted.
much.
Um, I've been working in the background. In addition to the wonderful Alan Fountain, Fountain of Truth, we have a special guest coming on,
Uh-huh.
an anon, and so I've been getting him the links and work, and he will come on for a few minutes today, and we can help maybe talk about the bridge, so on and so forth. And in addition to that, he will be our guest tomorrow, and I will be announcing him shortly. But that's what I was doing in the background. Although I did listen to the video that you put up, and we've been saying this for well decades actually,
Yeah.
that the
Agrees with them. So we're kind of on the cusp of that now, and it's a little freaky to think about it, but we are getting very close to it.
yeah, I agree. They're not going to get him. This is the main reason why we're going to win, and it's me helping and trying to convince the other people that disagree with that
Right.
is the way we're going to go. And hey, since our one of our special guests is in the back, you can run this one story on the bridge earlier, so he doesn't have to wait too long.
Okay.
I think you have it as number two, anyways, right?
Yeah, this is number two. You want to bring them on now? Let me see if I can
Well,
make it
let's
work.
let's run the bridge story again real quick.
Okay.
And I have a take on that. That honestly, our guest and my buddy Michael Jaco and somebody that Nino had on would all disagree with me. So I'm totally open to this conversation, which is kind of cool.
It's going to be a long conversation because there's so many pieces coming out. I was looking at all I was doing this morning is looking at the ship story, right? That's the only one that was really popping everywhere. And
Right.
you have people in all different directions on this. And it's like, at the end of it, you walk away and you go, so nobody really knows. Good guys,
Yep.
bad guys, was it a
Well,
cyber attack? Was it just, bad gas? Was it electrical problem? Right?
we have to remember, regardless, Robert, that we are in the fog of war.
Right.
So
No
it's not
question.
always going to look the way we want it to look, and there's also deception. I know our guest, which I'm going to announce, is actually a huge digger on Q on the drops, right? And
Hmm.
my feeling on that is Q is one of the greatest psyops ever, but I think it's a good psyop, not a bad psyop like it's being portrayed a lot. And I believe there's a lot of truth in there. In addition to that, I also believe that there has to be deception because you're not going to give the bad guys your plan.
Correct.
You're not going to hand it on a silver platter. And I also believe there's a lot of misinterpretations of Q. The largest one being the last time, I believe it was September 2018. Trust the plan. Well, trust the plan in my opinion, has always been we the people. We the people need to activate. President Trump has said this over and over and over again. Yet I believe it's been manipulated completely different to just sit on your couch and eat popcorn. So
Correct.
we're going to go into that. But yeah, let's go into your story, and then I'm excited to announce our guests, and then we'll have Alan from the Fountain of Truth that will follow up after that.
So this popped up in the Daily Mail. This is an exclusive breaking news report that they had. They said the Dali cargo ship, which smashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, suffered a severe electrical problem while docked in Baltimore days before, according to a port worker. So somebody on the ground over there. Julie Mitchell, co-administrator for Container Royalty, a company which tracks cargo, told CNN the ship was anchored at port for at least 48 hours, obviously. And those 2 days, they were having serious power outages. They had a severe electrical problem. Mitchell told the broadcaster it was total power failure, loss of engine power. They lost everything. Mitchell explained that refrigerated boxes tripped breakers on board and the ship on several occasions, and mechanics have been trying to fix the issue. She said they didn't know whether the problem had been fixed before the ship set off. So that's new. I didn't hear that information yet about this.
Yeah.
And we saw the video, and you saw the power going off, the power coming back on, at least twice before they went into the bridge.
Now, could that have been a planned story to divert from a attack? Because we understand how DARPA works and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So that being said. To me, it was intent, whether it was the ship was hacked or it was on the captain, by the way, who's now being exposed as possibly Ukrainian. We have not verified that here, so we're not saying he is Ukrainian. It's just information that we're hearing.
Right.
So whether it was the captain or the ship was hacked, it intentionally, in my opinion, hit the most vulnerable pillar on the bridge, which could possibly take it down.
Right.
So there will be cover-up stories and justifications. We understand that's in the fog of war is coming on the story if it's not here already, just like it will happen on the P. Diddy story. So what I would like to say, though, is, and this is one thing I'm going to ask our guest, is there's a lot of speculation out there now from experts, by the way, including I'll read something that Michael sent me. He's out of town right now, about the bridge. So they're showing the lights flashing, and they're claiming that it's probably thermite or some type of controlled demolition.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, as I said yesterday, my belief system, and this has become a little bit of construction knowledge and dealing with electric companies, these appear to be more than that. It appeared to be when you stretch a cable and they break a high voltage cable, the sparks looked identical. Now, there is some thermite that kind of sparks a little bit. I think our guests can go into that a lot better than I can. That's not my expertise. So I thought it was cables breaking. Now you could say, well, when it breaks, then it's not going to spark many times. Yeah, but there is, depending on the bridge, there's multiple transformers on some bridges to carry the electricity across to where they need to. So you could have multiple sparks. Again, this is my opinion. In addition to that, the question was the cable specifically meant to power the electricity on the bridge, or was it a transfer cables, or cables plural, that was pulling energy from one side of the river to the other?
Right.
Huge difference on how they react. So based on that, Robert, unless you have something else to say, I'm going to introduce our guest.
Yeah, why don't you do that? And then, because we have three or four stories on this one, so we can continue the conversation, but our guest could probably bring a new level of texture to this particular story.
So as most people know, I don't generally read a bio, and certainly not a lengthy one, but this person that we're bringing on, I think, deserves to have this read. It's a very impressive resume, and you will also understand why you will not see this person's face. And this is one of just a few I think are fairly legitimate. So this gentleman is E.N.G. Anon, is practicing consulting structural engineer with 30 years of experience. He's worked in the U.S., Europe, and Asia and Canada on various building projects for various public and private stakeholders. He is most familiar with the building construction projects in structural steel, reinforced concrete, glass, and aluminum. Apart from consulting, E&G is also a university instructor for graduate level engineering courses. He has also served as an instructor for the iStruct London, UK chartered member exam, which is considered to be the toughest engineering exam in the world. As he continues to work as a consultant, he has elected to speak under anonymity, which I absolutely agree in this case. E.N.G. Anon derived his handle partly from being a devoted QAnon and partly from being an experienced engineer. He has been an avid reader and truth seeker all his life, but his research became more determined and concerted after 9/11, when he sensed a massive conspiracy underway to destabilize the world.
Yep.
Let me introduce you folks to E.N.G. Anon.
Thanks, Louis. Can you guys hear me okay?
Robert, you would have to answer that question.
Yeah.
Sounds
Angie,
good.
you're a little bit low, but I think we got you.
Little bit low. How's this?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. And a pleasure. Thank you very much. I believe this is short notice, everybody. And this is the first time, so it's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, thank you very much, Louis. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet Robert. And I would like to say a special hello to Alan Fountain. I've seen Alan on the so-called alternative news for quite some time, and it's cool to be on the same call as you. So big shout out.
All right.
Excellent. So we're going to have E&G on for a full interview this Thursday, tomorrow actually, which will be fantastic. But I'd like to introduce you to this gentleman, and in addition, I believe you're going to have a much more experienced take than I have on this bridge. So, in regards to just lay out your scenario, what you think is going on here, and I will just preface this with, I got a text from Michael Jaco because I was explaining to him that it looks more like electricity to me, but he said some kind of thermite is used to cut this type of metal because it is in flames. LAS, it breaks. Smoke from the explosive gases and steam as sections hit the water. You can reference me if you'd like. So that was his text to me, for some clarification. Ian G., what's your take on what's going on there?
Well, first of all, it's heartwarming to see that you and I have the same connection with Michael Jaco. For it was his wife actually alerted me to this news story. I was at my summer home when this news broke, and I heard about it through them. And I had been on Michael's show and done 3 2-hour-long parts where I do an engineering, basically a PowerPoint presentation, all in about 6 hours long. And hats off to Michael for his huge endurance sitting through all that. We did that about the World Trade Center 7, and we did talk about a controlled demolition in that case. It's very relevant to what could be happening right now today. As far as what's actually taking place, it is a little bit early for me to comment. And what I haven't done yet, I have actually gone only with the knowledge of hearing about this event and seeing a cursory video that's available. It appears to be time-lapsed that shows clearly the vessel losing power, lights flickering. At least that's what's being shown. And coming into contact with the structure, and then suddenly the thing comes down. So my scrutiny is limited to that. And before tomorrow's show, what I would really like to do is I would like to go over all available footage. I imagine quite a lot more will appear in the intervening period, and I can get a little bit more data. I heard actually you commenting, Lewis, something about thermite and controlled demolition. And that, as far as I know, that could well be the case. And the only reason I say that is what little I've seen about this collapse does sort of beggar a question as to that doesn't appear to be a normal structural takedown. As a structural engineer, understanding how members fail in like a progressive collapse, that's not really the shape of the structure I would expect to see right off the bat. And that's only my structural spider sense, if you will, talking, right? Because the ship would hit one of those 4 piers. I did look at an overview of the bridge and noticed that it's basically hitting it, knocking it out, and hey presto, you have a collapse. So I don't know to what end it would be served by having a controlled demolition apart from a guaranteed takedown. And a guaranteed takedown was indeed the prevailing theme in the World Trade Center collapse. So sorry for rambling on there.
No, this is beautiful. I don't know if we lost you for a second.
No, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So, this is my take on it when I was looking at it yesterday. I know, a lot of people are talking about controlled demo. The fact that it was probably thermite. I mean, Michael Jaco says that when I investigated the video with my novice eyes, it appeared that the what it looked like to me electrical explosions happened after parts of the bridge bent and were separating, which would indicate a wire being pulled apart. And these are massive, sometimes 8 to 10 inches thick or more. So that's why my determination is it seems like this is just an ancillary electrical charge being released. But I want to get as many people on this because I have no problem being wrong. All I care about is we, the people, get the right information.
Well, Lewis, when we look at the video, right, there's a spark along the very top edge of the bridge, right, the very top edge of the superstructure. I don't know that that's where the wires go. I think they go along the roadway at that level. So it's kind of interesting that
they have wires on the top for the lighting.
For the lighting, right? But
yeah.
Do they,
with their transferring power though? They generally go underneath.
They go underneath, or they go at the road level. Yeah, they don't go really above that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert, are you able to show that?
Yeah, I've showed it a few times. Yeah.
Sorry, because I joined you fairly late here. So
okay, if you look on Zoom, you'll see a screen called Program Out. That's what we're sending to the audience. So that's where you'll see it. I'll play it again.
Okay. Yeah,
play it again, Sam. Here we go.
Oh yes, something does seem to be going on the left span, on the left side. Is that correct?
Yep.
And the right also towards the top. Yes. Okay. Although I see the sparks of happening after the collapse starts, is that's why I indicated that it's probably not controlled demo. But a lot of other people with a lot more knowledge than me are seeing something different. But if you slow it down, the sparks certainly happen after the structure is compromised, not spark like you would see with controlled demo, and then the collapse.
Yeah, there are two types of we could say explosive, if we want to call thermite an explosive. There is a cutting charge, which would be thermite. Thermite will basically evaporate the steel that it's in contact with. And then the kinetic one is used to knock members out of the way. That gives something, imparts a tremendous amount of energy and gets the adjoining member going. It's more of a shaped charge, some kind of an explosive that has a very high velocity. By contrast, thermite has a very, very high ignition temperature, approximately double, we're talking 4,000 degrees. Approximately double what it takes to melt steel, which is approximately 2,000, depending on the alloy. So there are a couple of different bodies at work when something like that is being done. So yeah, it's basically added to the mixture to make sure that a structure will collapse a certain way, or to guarantee that collapse does actually take place. So I've got on my other screen, I'm seeing if I can find it this time, a little bit better video, but that one kind of seems to be the predominant one.
That's the one everyone's sharing, exactly.
Yeah, that's...
that looks like it's coming from some kind of security camera, too, because who's up at 1:30 in the morning to be filming, you know?
Of course, yeah. Let me just replay that. Yeah, something is definitely... There are some sparks definitely happening on the left-hand side. I'm replaying this. I've got it on full screen, and I've sort of cycling it. So I'm seeing it on the left, and I'm going to look at the right. Lewis, you mentioned that something is visible on the right, too. Now, Lewis, are you talking about to the right of the main span, or to the left of the rightmost support? Is that where you're seeing those sparks?
No, to the right of the actual video at the top. Okay. And that spark appears after the structure seems compromised. Then I see that spark.
Right. So it's just over that pillar, that second pillar.
The second pillar, the one that did not fall.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, from what I'm seeing, and this is, guys, I apologize. This is so breaking news for me.
Of course.
I've been, I was dealing with a client about half an hour ago. And so I've been in my engineering world, but now I'm looking at this news and looking at this video. Something does seem to be afoot on the left side, because I see on the compression side, actually that would be, when you consider this structure, yeah, that would be a compression side, because the adjacent spans, beside the main span, there are two smaller spans. We're going to adjacent spans. The left adjacent span, approximately mid-span, does have a clear indication of sparks happening there. So it does appear to be controlled demolition. Wow, that's actually... even though we're so familiar with structures and we know what we need to do to make them fall down, it's still shocking when you see something like this being snuck in and the public being told, yeah, guys, buy this. Just don't question it. This is a collapse caused by the ship. Uh,
Hmm.
there appears to be something more at play here than just that ship. Now, the the really telling side for me is the structural support. Here, I'm going to move this video so I can see it better while I talk to you. I'm going to zero in on the structural support where the ship is. The ship is obscuring conveniently enough the structural support. It's hard to see it.
Now, it does appear there's some form of an explosion during impact too. Am I wrong about that?
Something is going on there. Wait a minute. I wonder now. This is interesting. I'm wondering, is the ship behind the bridge in this nighttime video? Because the supports appear to be in front of the ship.
Yeah, and then
behind it.
And then it turns into I believe it turns into the pillar, if I remember correctly, the support.
It was out of the shipping lane for quite a while before it hit the bridge too.
Yeah. Red flag.
Yeah.
I'm just constantly clicking my mouse, replaying, and I'm seeing those legs, that sawhorse that I was mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that sawhorse buckling repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
In order to buckle in that way, it would seem to me that something more is afoot. There's structure above that sawhorse. I mean, seriously, when you look at that profile of those four members that form the supports, it does look a lot like a sawhorse.
It does, yep.
So the members above that sawhorse appear to have something going on with them, and that's well above where the ship is. The bow of the ship is about halfway up the legs of the sawhorse, okay? That would be the impact point. It would take out the sawhorse at the knee.
Mm-hmm.
So if any trauma is applied directly to those legs, it's as a result of that ship hitting the sawhorse halfway up.
Yeah.
But something appears to be at play near the top because the legs appear to be tilted out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean the base of the leg is pivoting about a support point. There's a fixed point there where the base of the sawhorse leg is anchored. And the top of the leg appears to be free to rotate. It appears to be free to translate over to the left in our picture because the vessel is at the leftmost support of the main span. So that the leg appears to be kind of rotating about its base towards the left. That indicates to me that a structural compromise has happened at the top of the sawhorse. Something fishy is going on there. I can tell you right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is my first cursory observation, so forgive me if they're a bit terse, a bit sketchy.
No, I appreciate it. Now, what we'll do is we'll be well prepared tomorrow, and we'll have a lot of videos that we can review together on our show for sure.
Lewis, I just saw the sparks you were talking about.
Yes.
They happened at the right side of the main span, towards the left of the support at the right side. Okay, so they're in the main span on the right side of the main span. They're on the lower part of the structure near the road deck, it appears to be.
I saw that too. Yes.
Now, a structure that's cold forming, all right, the chances that it would produce sparks that are that visible at night from so far away are basically non-existent. There will be some static electricity discharge potentially, some piezoelectric action of the material being so violently cold formed that it may do that, but to a very small degree. There may be sparks visible only very close up, but to see it so far away at night, to actually light up the night air and transmit right to the camera like that, does appear to be right now. I'm making a preliminary call on it to you guys. I'd keep my mouth shut if I was in doubt, but there does appear to be some foul play there.
Interesting. Wow. So we have a lot to cover tomorrow, and I hope we can dive into 9/11 also. I do really appreciate you stopping by today. Robert, did you have a final question before we move on?
There is a rumor here in San Diego that the Coronado Bridge has explosives under it all the time, because in case of war, they need to get those ships out of there quick. They'll blow it up, knock it down, and get the ships out of the harbor faster. True, not true? I don't know.
That's an interesting hypothesis. But Robert, I got to tell you something. When I went through my whole World Trade Center collapse hypothesis, I call it a hypothesis because at the end, even though we were able to refute the official reports, as a group of engineers, it's not just me saying this. There's a whole group of us, architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, who have refuted the official NIST reports. We found them to be absolutely bunk. Even though we refute those reports, we're still kind of left with unanswered questions. What caused that material to be so brittle? What caused the material to appear to be so chemically altered? Why was the material carted off so quickly? Why on earth did the building collapse as quickly as it did? And the burning question for me, from my perspective, because this was clearly rigged. Okay, this is clearly a controlled demolition, especially the third tower, World Trade Center 7. Why in the hell did they bother to rig World Trade Center 7 with explosives? Why would they go through all that trouble? And my hypothesis, and Louis, we can talk about this tomorrow, but my hypothesis is pointing, and please note, I'm calling it a hypothesis. This isn't a done deal. This isn't a conclusion I've reached. It's a hypothesis. My hypothesis is saying that World Trade Center 7 would have been the perfect place to construct a directed energy weapon right on top of the roof, because if you take a look at the shape of the roof, the windows at the top two levels that are facing the Twin Towers are a sort of a slanted curtain wall, a sort of storefront, if you will. 2 stories high of glass, just glazed fully. They could have had a microwave weapon housed behind that with a clear line of sight. It would have lit up those 2 Twin Towers easily, and it could have scanned them up and down, dumping electrical energy into the steel structure. And most people don't know this. World Trade Center 7 was built directly. The footprints almost matched on top of a power station, the Con Edison power station that powered all of Lower Manhattan. So you're talking about tapping into megawatts of energy. It would have been as simple as running high power conduits down, the 46 stories down to the Con Edison substation at the base, hooking up to it and having virtually practically unlimited power on top to carry out that dastardly deed, chemically alter that steel so it would have bent very easily. It would have been very brittle, friable. Unlike its natural state where it's a very ductile, energy absorptive material. It's like trying to crush a Coke can in its weakest sense, but in its actual sense, it's much, much, much stronger than that. So that's what my hypothesis led to. And Robert, as you said that, I thought about my feeling when I was constructing that hypothesis. I thought to myself, could it be that World Trade Center 7 was purpose built just for the reason of, in case of war needed, break glass, or let's use these buildings. These buildings were purpose built to be knocked down. World Trade Center 7 was purpose built to take down the Twin Towers. In my long 6-hour presentation with Michael Jaco, I expounded on there are many reasons for why they could and would be able to do that. So I wonder if these bridges, now that you mentioned the Coronado Bridge, which Michael Jaco is, I think, pretty familiar with, he did his SEAL training on the West Coast, did he not?
Yeah,
I believe
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so who knows if this civil engineering infrastructure around the country isn't kind of pre-wired for this type of occasion. Now, this is starting to go into potentially some really dark areas. I am one of those people, if I just may continue on, I won't be too long, less than a minute here.
Sure.
My position on all of this, now that I've been studying 9/11 for so long, and I've been studying the world situation, I believe that we are currently under white hat so-called military control. And this, when you take a look at this Francis Scott Key's bridge, all right, when you take a look at it on the plan view on the map, it's not at a critical artery. It's not at a bottleneck. So if the white hats elected to demolish a bridge, let's just make a big hypothesis there, a big fat dripping hypothesis that they would take this bridge out, that they would actually resort to something like this. Then they did it off the beaten track where they wouldn't really cause economic damage because it's not on a major artery. This could be bypassed pretty easily from what I can see on the maps. I'm not a DC resident, but I could see that it's just simply possible to drive around the I-95. Just take a detour, and you can continue on to Philadelphia and New York, etc. The other thing is that this is an old piece of infrastructure. Its days have been numbered for a very long time. As you've heard, the American Society of Civil Engineers gave the United States basically an F on the report card for its maintenance of its infrastructure. The White Hats there are some formidable engineers among them. They have got some of the top people. They're very familiar with our inventory that we have, and they figure why not? We could actually use this one, and we could rebuild it in the future because there will be a lot of construction after the world is liberated.
Yep.
But I'm going a little bit beyond maybe my station here. I've only been called to comment as a structural engineer, so I hope you don't mind those additional words.
No. In fact, we appreciate it, and especially tomorrow when we have a full interview with you. I want to hear all your hypothesis. Anything that you have for us, you bring it, and we'll probably go an hour and a half. And if we need to do follow-up shows, we'll do that also. But I appreciate your work, and I appreciate how you came on at such a quick notice and brought it, because I'm watching the chat, and I really appreciate this calm, measured take on things. So thank you for that.
Ian G, we have a lot of people asking how they can follow you.
Well, I appreciate the question from the viewers out there. At this time, you can only really get me at the odd time when I do an interview. On Monday, I'm set to do one with Melody Krell. That's Mel K, as you know. I've done 3 of the long version interviews with Michael Jaco. I think that I think his handle is Michael J5326 on Rumble. If you go on his channel, you will find 3 2-hour long videos there. I get in to the entire PowerPoint presentation that we have. That PowerPoint presentation was prepared by somebody else, and it's being presented by other people, not the people who present it, but the people who are presenting it do their due diligence. It's actually called Project Due Diligence. It's out of AE 911 Truth. And that project is basically an engineering synopsis of our key points, where we're demolishing the basis, the legs on which the NIST reports stand. We completely dismantle their rationale and their logic, and we point out that it is in fact a fallacy. And this isn't just something that we pulled out and now, hey, presto, we're doing it here on Michael Jaco. This has been put in front of thousands of engineers across the country, and it's been put in front of the engineers by very seasoned engineers. There's a gentleman who is a member of our group. I took my hat to him. He's a former Green Beret. His name is Roland Angle. He's a practicing consulting structural engineer out of California. I'm a junior compared to him. He's got about 40 years of doing this, maybe a bit more actually, when you count his Army experience there. But he has presented this on the AE 911 Truth website as well. Now, look, AE 911 Truth is a tremendous, tremendous resource, and I have sort of run out there with and without their support. They're very busy guys. They're really hard to get a hold of anybody out there, because and I get it. It's 100% volunteer basis that they're doing this. They have their day jobs, these guys. So nothing against them whatsoever. But the idea behind Project Due Diligence is any engineer qualified to present the material can download it off the AE 911 Truth website, keep that PowerPoint with them, and present it publicly, like Roland has, and like I have as well. I have now presented it to, God, it's been viewed by millions of people now with the views that these videos are getting. So I'm kind of sneaking it in under the radar, if you will. And for now, that's a really long answer to a very simple question. Where do you find me? I would start there. And I don't want to take credit for this. If anything that I do solves this, then great. My job is to change the collective consciousness out there and to imprint this on the minds of people who have their ears on, who are willing to listen, and who are mature enough to form their own universal view rather than take on board what somebody else tells them they should think. And guys, this is so all encompassing in the United States right now, and we really shouldn't underestimate stuff like this bridge, 9/11, Maui, that stuff. We shouldn't underestimate this because look how many how many military careers were started as a result of 9/11, myself included at that moment. But I knew that the collapse was bunk. I knew, okay, I'm seeing something. This shouldn't be happening like this. I recognized the structural inconsistency right away, right off the bat. But for the first couple of weeks, when everybody was in that frustration, that anger, I got swept up in that too. And rational dialogue was impossible. So what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of shock. We're seeing a lot of people who are just, but unfortunately, the minority of us are saying, wait a minute, guys, I don't know, this doesn't look right. Did I see sparks up there? And Louis, you just educated me on that yourself, right? It took you to comment and me to look at the video a little bit more closely and say, holy shit, there's some controlled demolition happening right there, okay? That's how this happens. I'm not the be-all, end-all here. You can put this in front of other engineers. They'll probably come to the same conclusion. But the problem might be, are they willing to voice that publicly? I'm not. That's why I'm Anon. I'm not going to release my identity because not everybody is on the same page as us, and I'm working really hard to break that, okay? And so I'm really thankful to be on your show today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
I
See you
really
tomorrow.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Right on.
Right.
Okay.
Whew, lots of good stuff there, huh?
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Is that the word of the day? Beautiful?
Yeah, it is.
Is that what you
Beautiful.
would describe this website as beautiful? Because I would.
I would describe this website as strategic.
Strategic and also beautiful, Lisa Richards. Nice job on the website. Screwbiggov.com. If you have not visited this week, go visit. It's real important because that's where you keep up with Louis. Oh boy, the guy is sprinting all the time. I can't believe how much he's got on his plate. I think he works 7 days a week, if I'm not mistaken. It's just like constantly in flow. And it's not, busy work. It's work for we the people. It's work for keeping the ball rolling, keeping people informed on what's going on. He's working very hard with different cities to deal with the election issues. And you'll hear a lot more of that going forward. As Louis can talk about it, he will talk about it because it's real important. If you want to support him, there's a donate button on ScrewBigGov. He would really appreciate that. I know he doesn't like to ask for donations, but I have no problem with it because I know the money's going to a good place. It's not being wasted. It's not like he's going to take a vacation in Cancun with it. He's doing stuff for we the people. So
I appreciate that, Robert.
ScrewBigGov.
Yeah, it's a dynamic website. Lisa did a phenomenal job on it. And you can find just about everything we do just on this one website. And the reason why we have what we call a portal, screwbiggov.com, is because we understand what the shadow banning looks like. And just great example. Multiple people in chat today were talking about they're being systematically unfollowing, even though that wasn't their intention, and they can't comment, so on and so forth. If you can't comment, generally that means something within Rumble unfollowed you, so you'd have to go back and follow.
Yep.
It's the game we have to play, but that's why you go to the website and towards the top, in one section, you get all the social media links because we deal with this on all of our media out there right now. And then Robert, of course, has a phenomenal Telegram. And what I love about Robert's Telegram is he takes a lot of these clips that we show on this program and sometimes a news story that we can't get to, and he'll put it on Renegade Media on Telegram. So make sure you go there also.
There is a clip today from Lara Logan, a 13.5-minute clip, and she goes into all the stuff about the ship and what she believes, and hearing from intel sources apparently. I thought I'd like to play some parts of it, but it's hard to chop it up because there was so much. So if you want to find it, go on Telegram, go on the Renegade Media channel. It is there. You can email me, Robert, at renegademedia.tv. And I always love to hear from our viewers. So,
Yep.
the weirdness continues with the shipping thing. Remember Angela Chow? She backed up her car, her Tesla, into a pond and drowned.
Yeah. That happens every day. I don't know why it's even a story.
I don't know. It's the sister-in-law to Mitch McConnell's wife, Anita, right? And she was the one who owned, CEO of the CEO of the shipping company that owned the cargo vessel responsible for the Baltimore Bridge collapse. There's more to the story here. I don't know. What do you think, Lewis?
Yeah, I dug into this a little bit. A lot of people are trying to debunk this. I don't know if it's true. They're trying to say it was a different shipping company, so on and so forth. So it's hard for me to create a narrative around something I don't have all the facts with. But
Right.
that being silly, suspicious.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes along with these single engine aircraft planes that just happen to go down all of a sudden, even though people don't talk about the amazing glide ratio on the single engine aircrafts in general, the Cessnas, the Pipers, and some other things. And why is that important? It's because they have a pretty good history of, even when the engine goes out, having an opportunity to land that plane on water, in a field, sometimes on a road, right?
Yep.
So the fact that these things explode in the air and just go down like a rock is a big indication that that's not normal, because they should be, unless they break a wing, they should have some form of a glide ratio. Some are better than others.
Mm-hmm.
So this is highly suspicious. All of it is. And this is one thing that we hear over and over, and I completely agree. And I know I've been harping on this since 2020, but there is a point where coincidence is mathematically impossible anymore.
Right.
And I think it's pretty obvious that we are well past that threshold. What do you say?
Well, she was in a Tesla, and this will get back to the ship story. She was in a Tesla. Tesla sends enormous amount of data back to headquarters, right? They know where you're driving, how fast you're driving. They also know the speed limit you're driving. They know how hard you hit the brakes, how hard you steer. They know all of that data. And in fact, many car companies have now copied that. My car, for instance, it's a 2024, and the first thing they said is, would you like to send your driving data to your insurance company? No. No, thank you. But it has a black box in it. So if I were to crash, they could go in, they could extract all that data, and they could say, hey, the guy was doing 70 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. Now, with that connection being internet-based, right? The Tesla's talking to the cars all the time. It's hackable. This way you don't understand. It's hackable, right? This is not, far-fetched science fiction. It's hackable. So is the navigation system on a ship. Now, who knows? Did they do the updates that they were supposed to do on their system? They're certainly not out there in the science fiction realm. It's not. It's very possible. I look at that and I say, this ship was off course almost since it left port. Wasn't on course at all. Somebody messed with the navigation system. So the captain of the ship may have been looking at the screen and thinking he's 100% on course.
Mm-hmm.
It's dark. He doesn't really know. He's just going by his navigation. Might have said, you're going perfect. Everything's great. And then he looks up and iceberg, you know what I mean? And hits the bridge. We don't know.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm feeling, my gut tells me the story that came out that showed that this had electrical issues and so on and so forth. That's a planted cover story.
Yep.
In my opinion, to justify this accident, because how coincidental, right? That and suddenly, and that's what took down the whole ship. People have to understand these cargo ships and any ship. I believe there's a certain length, but if you're past a certain length or certain weight, it has to have what's called safety redundancy in it, which means if one system fails, another one is up immediately to back that up and give them at least minimal control. So
right.
It seems very odd to me that they would have a full system shutdown by the way, you pointed it out well. This was way out of the shipping lane.
Yeah.
Before you even seen the electricity cut off.
Yep.
Now, could it have been hacked from the outside, and the captains and everybody else were panicking, try to get this thing fixed, and shutting down electrical and doing other stuff. I don't know. But that one story about the electricity seems very canned to me, and ready to do a post release to justify this quote accident, which I'm feeling it's not.
But would the ship have ever left port having electrical problems like that shut the whole ship down? They would have grounded it. They would have, no, it's not going anywhere until this is absolutely fixed and we're certain that it's fixed.
I would agree with you.
They're rather large. Yeah. All right. Where is this one that we want to talk about? This migrant crisis. You had this video that you wanted me to share.
Yeah, let's.
Do you want to jump into Alan first? Do you want to jump?
Let's bring Alan on because he's been patiently waiting, and I'm sure I know he's got a pretty. I don't even know what it is exactly, but Alan said he's bringing it today. So
you sounded like you said Al-Anon, and I'm like, okay, is he another Anon?
Al-Anon, yeah. Well, there's another meaning of Al-Anon. So
there's an Al-Anon. Here we are. Hi,
Alan. Not want to be that mean.
Hi guys, how are you?
Fantastic. Awesome. How are you doing, Alan?
I was really pleased to hear ENG Anon. What a great guest you have there, and I was very flattered that he even knew who I was. That's my humble self.
Well, we only bring on the best guests when you're here, Alan.
I've totally.
You're included, by the way.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I want to start out today's thing by kind of giving a little short overview. Louis, you've been so. Your whole team has just been such a blessing to me. You know what a bizarre journey I've had. I can go back over my life, and at different stages during my reveal over the last 3 years, I've had different theories on who was in my life, who was not in my life. I'm kind of reframing that now. I feel like this operation we're in has been a many years, decades and decades and decades of operation. And I think for that reason, if it's a God-anointed mission, and we do choose our life path when we come in, before our incarnation, they would have worked all that out for your family, for the people that you'd come in contact or whatever, to have a similar mission in life. So a lot of people in my life that I might have wrongly said, oh, they're attached to this person or that person. I think they're on the same God path that I am, doing their role, and they might have gotten whatever role there was. I'm in total forgiveness of everyone in my past, which I think is very important for raising your vibration and being, in that higher spirit. So saying that, what I've learned, the reason I'm saying that is I've been in this operation since a child. I think possibly if they had a looking glass or whatever, and I'm going to say that based on some of the Pythagorean numerology aspect that is part of this mission. Some people have thought that the Masons, there might be different energy frequency Masons, good, bad, gray, white, black. But this Pythagorean thing seems to go back, to Egypt or even to different areas of civilization, about the energy system. So for that reason, my journey has been very energetically coincidental. You said earlier, this operation is too mathematically, finite for it to be coincidence. And that's exactly where I am. I'm getting markers and signs that the temperament and the mission of the Q operation is purely benevolent. We know that you said trust the plan. Trust the plan was a 3-year operation only. It was supposed to end at 3 years. That was information gathering, education for the public. And then it ended. Then you jump into be the plan, basically, like you've said. Me putting this stuff out there about the past and where we're going. The bridge collapse happened at 1:28 in the morning. This is a significant marker for the numerology. There is a theory going around that the 128 is a very significant marker in some of the, some call it Illuminati decoding, but it's definitely part of the numerology, and it's very prevalent in this. It's my feeling and discernment that we, whether we take responsibility for it, these people's missions are having to be forced to be shown what they would have done or whatever. There's a 128 code that is very prevalent. There's a guy out there named Donut Factory. He's known as the Illuminati decoder, and he goes into all of the Hollywood numerology decoding. This bridge went down at 128. There's a theme with everything at 128. My 107 always talked about reversing the spells. You do it times 3. I'm under the feeling that we're resetting the matrix to this 1111111, and we're very close. We know this eclipse coming up. When you listen to some of the esoteric authorities, it's all about the energy and your ability to manifest. Where your thoughts are at that time are going to be magnified. So it's very important right now to be in your most optimism and positive. So therefore, any of these false flags or elements that are here to frighten us would be to trap you into that lower dimensional frequency. So it's very important to rise above that. Now I'm going to get into some of the more factual things about the 128. I wrote an article and did one of my better podcasts, I think, with Michael Jaco on the 1111. It's actually a gateway portal. It's 1111 gateway. A lot of people started seeing this 1111 on clocks. All of these people happen to be very prominent in this movement. There was a gentleman named Joe Masapo. He was very early in the Q operation. His Twitter account had 777 followers, and he put on there 11, '11, which was 1111. And I told you I've announced in a lot of my podcasts, I've done decodes on what that 1111 is. I did a breakdown. The Queen surrendered on an 111111 frequency. The First World War ended on an 111111 marker date. So these are all reset codes. The lotto that we just had last night, oddly enough, these are the numbers that I would normally choose. They mirrored Joe Masapo's numbers. This 7 happens to be associated with Trump. A lot of the gematria and numerology people associated the number 7 with Christ consciousness and related to Trump. There's people that will go back to the early part of this operation that are familiar with that. The lotto numbers for the 1,100,000,000 lottery win last night represent this Q operation synchronicity. The numbers were 7, the first number, the second number 11, the next number was 22, which is 1111. Then we have the next number 29, which was 11. The next number was 38, which is 11. And then you had 4, which is 1111. That's all ones. And then you have that Christ 7 that starts it out, that represents Donald Trump's mission. So the uncanniness and coincidence of that. Also, we're seeing media stories out there in legacy media. They're talking about exposing the lotteries for only giving 1.5% to education. Where's that other money going? Are we going to find out that the lottery is a laundering scam somewhere for the deep state? And now that the white hats have taken it over, and this money might go to fund, who knows? I'm hypothesizing right there. But the coincidence in that lotto win last night, and my article that I've written on the Q operation being synced with the 1111 is just uncanny. John Kennedy's assassination date, November 22nd. It comes out to be, it all lines up in that. It's in my article. I can't recall it right off. But his executive order to go back to the silver dollar, silver currency, asset-backed currency was 1111.0. So this, some of my military people that have been in my journey throughout my life, coincidentally, I just happen to have a lot of military. They're friends, or they come into my life. I think it's a social connection. It's this, I've been getting a little information throughout my 30, 40-year journey. I met a gentleman back to the bridge. I think this bridge is part of we're having to reset the matrix. I think that we're going to have to. Everyone is talking about one of these military guys came into my life in 2019 and complimented me on my blog. He used to write for the Reagan administration. He was an Army guy, and he wrote the brief on the EMP. The EMP is being put out as a warning to the public right now, very heavily about, and I think a lot of this stuff is education to let the public know what they were going to do to us, and we're actually going to have a sample of it all. I think it's going to happen. I know too many honest, loving people in my orbit over my life to think that we're going to have a surprise attack on us right now. Even if people disagree with General Flynn, people disagree with all of these people that are in our orbit. I think that all of these people are working to save America and to save humanity. There's the White Dragon Society in Asia. If you listen to Ben Fulford, I've listened to him for 5 or 6 years. He tells the history of how the $7-8 trillion the Asian families have. They are of a different ethics than this Rothschild Babylonian Satanist. They have a little more ethical character and probably long history. I do believe we're being aided. We do know that they did help take out Jacob Rothschild in 2017 in the kamikaze hit. This was stuff that I validated through the Q operation plus news articles. So back to the bridge and the 128. This is copying the movie that came out with Obama. Obama never would have, if Obama was in control, they could have done predictive programming without attaching his name to it. This is linking Obama to having a physical association with Leave the World Behind. What is that? What was the movie? Is it called Leave the World Behind? Leave the World Behind. That movie that he produced for Netflix. He never would have done that if he was going to attack videotapes that we thought they alluded of his arrest and Michelle Obama's. All of this stuff is a movie showing to justify it actually happening. But this numerology thing is very vital and very significant. There's a gentleman named Donut Factory. If you go listen to his most recent video, he will link how the ship Dali, after Salvador Dali, the artist, and I have pictures of who the two captains were, but was from Singapore. The Singapore ship, there's a white lion very prominent in Singapore, which represents the white lion that came out and Leave the World Behind. This is all symbolism linking that ritual of what they would do for their predictive programming so that it's an obvious association to people who can help spread that word, how it's associated to that Babylonian New World Order system. So also, it goes in there talking about the significance of this 128, and it breaks it down. I went to a party. This is weird. I was in 1988. I just moved to LA. I was working for a company out of London called Alfred Dunhill. I got invited by some friends to go to a 128 party in Washington, D.C. And I thought, what is a 128 party? And back then they explained it. Well, there's only 128 people in the world that you know, or whatever, something like that. But this guy is explaining this 128 is significant. Julia Roberts, who was in the movie Leave the World Behind, her birthday is October 28th. All of these people that are related and connected have a 128 in their association. So is Julia Roberts good? Is she bad? Or is she part of this system that is, that I call them middle of the road placeholders? Is she a placeholder actress? Is she a Satanist? Who knows? I just know I'm not a Satanist. I have the 128. My birthday numerology life path is 128. And it all and I'm an 1111. So these numbers are important to these people. They've been in my life for a very long time. And my consciousness has never been to do anything evil. So I'm thinking that there's a lot of people out in our world that whether they're connected to Masons or not Masons, we know the country was founded by Masons, so there's there's something mysterious still about, you can't say it's all bad or all good. There's some middle of the road there that I'm finding sequences with. But also I wanted to put out there that in my early research, should we have something like an EMF attack, where the power grid goes down? Back in 2015, when I was doing research, and whether I was being given advanced intelligence or whatever through my algorithms, I was introduced to something called the Gwen Towers. The Gwen Towers is a communication system that we have in America that is ground wave. It's called ground wave emergency technology. So what it is these Gwen Towers, every 200 feet, we have a Gwen Tower. So our army and military could communicate regardless of anything of that nature through these ground waves. So there's a lot of preparation in advance, prepared for all these different scenarios. This friend who came into my life and said he wrote the paper for Reagan and complimented me on my blog in 2019. And I didn't have any idea, but he said, I'm not going to. I'm about to have a beautiful future, and I hope everybody comes join me. And be happy.
Absolutely. Love it, Alan. Thank you for your take on this. And in regards to the numerology and so on and so forth. So people have heard from me directly that I have some challenges with gematria.
Yeah.
Different than numerology. And it's the gematria is run through simple gematria, English gematria, Hebrew gematria. Who knows what to pick? And when you put it in the computer, all these things come up that are great and all they're bad, and you just select the one that fits your scenario. Also, not saying gematria is not real and effective. I'm saying it's been convoluted.
But it would be, of course, if we have 13 months, it's not accurate.
Exactly right.
That could, I'm on the page with you there. How do we know? Because when did that 13-month end? Was it 200 years ago or 100 years ago? Because you would be a totally different astrological sign according to the original astrological charts, and also your numerology chart would be different of a system that lasted, back in the 500 years ago.
Yeah.
This is what we don't know.
Exactly. So this is what we're trying to figure out. But now here's what we do know about the numerology. I believe there is something to it. I mean, my number is 11. Everything pops up 11, 11, 11. I saw for the first 5 years of this movement, all I saw is 11, 11 all day long. And it got to a point where if I didn't get freaked out, I made a conscious decision. Okay, those are, and I started looking at it. That meant every time I said something, that was a confirmation message, what it was. It was pretty cool. So there is something to all this. Here's what we know. So let's go with what we know, Alan, and we'll let you go. What do we know? We know the bad guys use all this spiritual stuff in numerology for millennia, several. They've been using this stuff forever. So at minimum, the good guys are taking their numbers and spinning it on its head in order to affect the bad guys. That's at minimum. And then we can take it to another level. Maybe they believe in this stuff also. But this is we like to take a pragmatic approach here. So clearly we've known the bad guys. If you just go back in history with Egypt, they were using numerology back then. So, I mean, it goes back a long ways. We know the Khazarian Mafia, Rothschilds were all over numerology. So we know that they have these dates. In fact, talk to Laura Wardley. She's going to tell you we are in the scariest time of the year right now, because this is where most of their crazy spiritual, say, Dahanic holidays line up.
We're in that. April.
Yep. So question is, what calendar are they working with? And it's all intentionally confusing, of course.
But one thing that I just want to comment on that is Juan pointed out in his movie, The Called, Area 51. In order to reverse the spells of the Babylonian people, you do it to the third power or 3 times. And 3 times 17 is 51. So here you have, so that's why I'm saying that it's not necessarily negative occult if the white hat Q people are doing things with numbers. we could be reversing the spells. That's why I'm talking about the 11, 11, 11, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 of all these things that's happened to the queen, that has happened to that. This could be resetting to a benevolent matrix with the ones, and so I just wanted to put that out there.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate you. Alan Fountain of Truth. Where can we find you, Alan?
You can find me on my linktree.com/Alan Fountain 11, or you can go directly to my blog, Justic4JUSTICE.com. And if you want to support me, you can support me at GiveSendGo at Alan Fountain. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Alan.
And if you can't support Alan, support him. What I do know about Alan is he's always jumping around, rarely in the same place, and that's for his protection. So if you could help him out, that would be awesome.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed day.
Right.
Thank you.
Too,
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
All right. Good job, huh?
They're bringing it. Our guests are on fire.
Yeah. How about these guys? They look like they're very clean. I can't tell you how when I look at this photo, it's like, look at those coats. Look at how clean they are. And this is a 10-year-old and a 17-year-old, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
The one on the left is our, well, they say here, I have a debate with my family. So
Okay.
Let's spread our dirty laundry right here. So I believe he's an Alusky, which is a cross between a Malamute, Alaskan Malamute, and a Husky. Based on some of his features and some actions that I've seen, my family is pretty much 100% on a different page than me, which is normal. But the most successful people of the world are the ones that went against the grain. So hey, maybe I'll hang on to that. But I see him as an Alusky. Anyways, he's 10 years old, and if you've heard the story on the pet food, his energy that he hasn't had in years, it's phenomenal. And on the right side, believe it or not, that is a 17-year-old German Shepherd.
Wow.
And as of late, and I believe since we've been putting him on the food and the mushrooms from Pet Club 24/7, he has a bounce in his step that we haven't seen in a long time, and his coat is so shiny. So we think we're going to get a few more years out of him. Even a year ago, we were talking about maybe this is the end. So pretty cool.
Yeah, you can tell just by the photos. The coats look really, really nice and shiny and clean, and it's just it's brilliant to see that.
Yeah, I think my wife probably sprayed oil on them just to take the pictures.
Now.
She did not.
So the food is from Pet Club 24/7, and it contains a mushroom that helps with a lot of health issues. And the food is highly nutritious. It's not made from the commercial foods that you find on the market. Even the organic ones are not great, as I found out with my cat. Thumper here, he was on the organic food forever, and we thought he was done. He had gotten to a point where he had stopped eating and wasn't doing anything. We thought, flop it on the floor, no energy whatsoever. And then we got him on the food. It's okay, let's try it. We hear it's good. Let's. In a week, I kid you not. And now this guy is acting like he's a kitten. He's out hunting every day, doesn't even want the food. He's like going getting gophers and mice and rats. It's just like, man, he's so happy to be on the farm. He does not want to be inside anymore. He sees the door close, he's meowing to go outside. It's amazing. So you can find out more about this food in the description of the video. There is a link there, depending on which channel you're watching it on. Just click on the link there and you can find out more about it. Worth the try. I mean, don't wait till your pet is sick to get it. So cats, dogs, and also they have stuff for humans. I'm not going to tell you more, but there's stuff for humans there.
We can't tell you more, but the human stuff is pretty incredible. You go to their website. Here's what I will say, and this is, I think, an indication of how good this stuff is. And I'm talking about the pet food and the pet supplements. The reorders continuing every single month are very consistent, and that's for people to order a product online and keep reordering it. And it's not. I'm not saying it's an auto ship, by the way. I'm saying they're just reordering.
Right.
And different stuff every single month is a great indication on how awesome this stuff is.
Yeah, no question. I see it too, and Phoebe is a big fan now as well, and so yeah, I just see this as a benefit, and I get people emailing me, "Thank you so much, my animal's so much better now." I'm like, wow, that's so cool to hear, because we like to promote products that actually have an impact, right? Are we making a difference? Are we having an impact? If we're doing those two things, the rest of it will take care of itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think
agree.
that's what's going on here, and so cool. All right, we have a video from a fellow who was talking about the, was it a Uber driver? Let's see here. Military-age male migrant exploit. Yeah. This is the second time I've seen this kind of video, by the way.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because let's break this down. We'd like to be pragmatic here and deliver what we know, because a lot of people are calling this fear porn. Here's why I think there's a lot to this that's significant and true. So what do we know? We know the UN has publicly said that they're supporting migrants flowing across the border, our southern border. They publicly have stated that. We also know, based on interviews and boots on the ground, that there's been migrants that have been talked to, especially in Panama Canal, that have stated that the UN is sending this over, and they weren't supposed to say anything. Plus, there's multiple interviews, and like you said, of two now.
Yep. Where
they're stating the same scenario. All right, so let's go to another personal scenario. When I was on the border, there was about 200 migrants, virtually all fighting age male. Mm-hmm. So that's the truth. That was there. I filmed them, got them on film. If anybody wants to dispute it, I even have some interviews on there. I started speaking to him. One guy, which I thought was fascinating, he was, and I forgot if he was from Chad or Sudan. I think he was from Sudan. Anyways, he was a paid, listen to this, folks, true story, and I met him personally. He was a paid military contractor translator for the United States for a special forces unit.
Right.
Which we can't disclose, but that's what his title was. Now, we had an agreement with translators in all the past wars that when the war is over, if you would like, you can come over to the United States on a visa, you and your family, and we will take care of you. We'll set you up. That's an agreement, a written agreement. Guess what? He claims, and I've heard this several times, that we, United States, defaulted on that agreement. And that poor guy was trying to email and phone call and couldn't get a hold of his handlers, which he could always get a hold of before. But as soon as he wanted them to honor what their agreement was, next thing you know, they're not picking up their phone. So he decided that, he says, well, I know the border's porous. So he paid the money, and he told me exactly where he traveled, from where to where to where to where to get to here. Literally went through Turkey and some other places in order to get to here. And he said, well, because the border's so porous, I just decided to come over on my own.
Wow.
Now, number one, how sad is that?
Yeah.
Number two, you think if this is the way we're handling them, do you think some of these people may want to hold a grudge?
Yeah.
When the time is here?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are fundamentalists. Yes, we did hire fundamentalists with inside because they would communicate best in order to get the information that we needed to get out in regards to translating. So this is real stuff. And this is why I do get angry when I hear some patriots constantly saying everything's clear, there's nothing going on, it's all optics. That's a lie. That's not the truth. Mm-hmm. And I'm one that does absolutely believe there are good guys in the background doing phenomenal work. But this is a war, so there's a lot of work to be done. And yes, the borders are still porous. And yes, absolutely, fighting age males are coming through. And they're all, by the way, they're all lying, most of them, when I've interviewed them. So I interviewed a bunch, or let me say talked to a bunch. I didn't have them all on tape, but I talked to a bunch. And universally, in different pockets, immediately I say, where are you? And before I even answered the question, they said, Guatemala, Guatemala, Guatemala. Well, because they're told to say that, right? And these are the things that you need to pick up on. And then you have these anarchist they say they're freedom-loving people on the border, and what they're doing is they're feeding information to these illegals and telling them how to behave. We had it right next to me. Somebody was telling them, be quiet, be quiet. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to answer any questions, right? So they're very, very aggressive, and they're feeding and watering and housing them temporarily, of course, until they get shipped off to another city. So guys, this is definitely real. I don't know if this whole report is real, but it's definitely plausible based on the information that we've gathered.
Yeah, there's certainly some aspect of it that is, because I've seen it more than once now. So, oftentimes you'll see things will pop up just one time. You'll never hear anything more about it. But when you see it a few times, then you go, there might be something to this. It's not bubbling up to the mainstream level yet, but there might be something here that's going on.
Definitely, we should be paying attention.
Yeah, we should pay attention to it. And again, Second Amendment, right? It may come to defending your neighborhood, defending your property.
Yeah, and you may not even need to. And I think that could be the ace in the hole for us. Mm-hmm. Our house, why do we let them destroy the counties? Is that not our house? Why do they destroy the states and our federal government? I'm sorry, but we the people, is that not our house also?
Yeah.
So we need to start understanding this on a grander scale, that we are completely responsible for everything that's happened.
So a little less selfish.
A lot less selfish.
Yeah. And really start caring about your neighbor. I got to tell you, I had a conversation yesterday with someone who is a lifelong Democrat. Lifelong. And Phoebe's like, don't get in an argument. Don't get in an argument. I said, no. Just going to have a conversation. And basically, I listened to her complaints, and they're the same as ours. No different. There's no argument. You're right. The only difference is she hates Trump. But she loves RFK Jr. But they're standing almost for the same thing. Some of the things they talk about are exactly the same. So it's just, who's going to do it? That's really the only difference at this point. Boy, we've come a long way. Right?
Yep.
We're making inroads.
Right. And they're trained to hate Trump. That's the one thing that we miss. Yeah. So this is an indoctrination, because Trump may use harsh words, but nobody was more divisive than Barack Obama.
Correct.
And the way he went after people publicly. Yep. Nobody was more divisive than he is. So, but he was their ultimate savior because his speech was so eloquent. So what they're saying, and by the way, this is Hollywood, what people are saying when, in my opinion, when they're after DJT is they're saying he doesn't match our Hollywood eloquence that we need in speech. Yep. Right. And by the way, just so you know, all of Hollywood is spellcasting. So we're hard pressed. I love watching movies. Alan Fountain and I talked about this. My wife and I, we just absolutely love watching movies. And I'll watch the current movies. I'll probably watch a movie this weekend. But a lot of it's predictive programming. You have to be aware. You have to know what's going on. And some of them are absolutely great exposures. So I believe there's two battlefields out there right now. And we just have to know how to use it to our advantage. But I do think we the people are stepping up, though. So I don't want to bash we the people as not doing it. I'm starting to see them step up in ways that are.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, and it's good to see the divide has really gotten a lot less than it was. It's probably 50-60% less of a gap between left and right than it was maybe just even a year ago. And that article in the New York Times today about the everything that's going on, and it's like all on the left are starting to wake up, and they're realizing our country's freaking falling apart here. We can't let this go on, and they're seeing it with their own eyes. They go to the gas station, they go to the grocery store. I mean, you can't hide it from them anymore. What say you, Mr. Lewis? Are you convinced?
All right, so
you met him, I know.
I seem to be in all the right or wrong places at the right or wrong times throughout history. I'm like, wow, I was there. Okay, so we had, I believe it was a Truth Tour 2.
Right.
Where we decided to host something in Arkansas, knowing, and I myself and my crew motivated people to go crash Bob Joyce's church and so we strategically planned this. It was a lot of fun. And what we were told is that this is by far the largest attendance they've ever had. So that was kind of cool. People are literally standing up in the hallway and outside the door trying to peek in and see what was going on. So I look for markers. If anybody understands my craziness, when I sit in a restaurant, I put my back and I have to look at my back to the back, and I have to look at everything, and I assess people when they're walking in based on what type of threat or assist they would be. I always assess the emergency exit, so I pay a lot of attention to this. Something I've done for probably 40 some years. Don't know why. It's just something I've always done. It's kind of funny with inside the family sometimes. But so what happened is I decided to sit strategically. Everybody invited me to the front because I'm, Lewis, the founder of the Truth to Lunch Cinema. No, I don't want to sit in the front. So I sat with my wife, 3/4 back. And not to mention, we didn't want to sit on the floor up front either. So sat about 3/4 back on the right side. And we were sat there, and strategically I'm paying attention to people walking in and out of the hallway to the right. I can see everybody from the door and see everything that's going on. So what did I see? For no reason whatsoever, it's very clear that Bob Joyce had 3 bodyguards in the room that were set in different places. Okay. Why in a church that barely holds 100 people, if you're a nobody, do you need 3 bodyguards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clue
Wouldn't
number
happen.
1. Yeah.
Clue number 1. And then when I watched his sermon, I was not watching him as much as I would look for indicators. And what I heard is I heard the inflectuation in the voice and the way he kept putting out his hand. Elvis used to do this thing with his hand, like all the time, right? Bob Joyce did it over and over and over and over, right? Elvis was known not to have the largest legs in the world. Bob Joyce didn't either. Bob Joyce has a certain rhythm to him. So I'm like, So going in, I was thinking, maybe 30% chance it's Elvis, right? And then I watched him play the piano and sing. Okay, I've already understood his tonality is virtually exactly like Elvis, so I wasn't interested at that time. I watched him again. And the way his leg was wiggling underneath the piano told me everything. And then finally, at the end, people were saying hi, and he's like, I can't believe everybody's here. And somebody said, why don't you come up and take a picture with Bob? So it's just me and Bob up at front, right? And people were congregating around, and he was getting extraordinarily nervous. And he had his hand on my shoulder, and he pulled me in. And he's like, God, we got to do this. Just take the picture. We got to go. So he was very, very nervous about the crowd that started to surround, because they literally blocked off the exit, and I can see over the heads. You can see 2 of the security guys are trying to maybe create an exit path on the side. So his nervousness kind of put me over the top. I'm still not 100%, but I saw a lot of indicators, and then when you tie it to this video, that he absolutely, in my opinion, may be Elvis Presley.
Interesting how so many
I
in
hope
the
I
public.
hope that context helps people.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting, so many in the public eye who to get out of that, the trapping of it. And we all think we want to be famous. But if you think about a Michael Jackson, one of his biggest things that he wanted to do is he wanted to go grocery shopping and put gas in his own car.
Yep.
The things that you and I take for granted, we do all day, every day. He could not leave the house. He was on national television at 8 years old. So people recognized them around the world. There was nowhere he could go. So he would actually sneak out of the house in disguise just to feel like he's part of society. And people say, well, he was not normal. How would he be living the way he was living? And I just don't want any of that. I want a normal life.
I could. I mean, I can't imagine. So on a smaller scale, and I'm by no indications am I'm saying I'm famous, by none, but within the Patriot community, sometimes I'm located at certain things, and I've been surrounded with people, and it's like a conversation after conversation to conversation, and I go through a whole evening, 4, 5, 6 hours, where all I'm doing is having conversations. I rarely, my wife would have to bring me food, which she does anyways now because I've, been poisoned. She will not let anybody hand me food. So the fact is, she has to bring me food, or I have to request water, go, guys, you need to excuse me, I need to use the restroom. And it's not me being famous. It just happens to be that I'm somebody that may recognize and people want to have a conversation.
Right.
It's happened at several places where because I want to have those conversations, because it is all about we the people, I wasn't able to participate in what was going on. Can you imagine being famous and constantly being in that situation? I think many people would yearn just to have some type of anonymity where nobody really knew who they were. I don't think that's a far stretch at all.
No, I don't think so at all. And I've heard that story many times. It's like being famous isn't everything it's cracked up to be. Yeah, you have a lot of money. Yeah, everyone knows you, but you don't have a lot of freedom.
Yep.
So.
Agreed.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. Hey, let's talk about one more product here that we are super, super excited about. Pine needle extract. This is from Lance Shuttler's company, Ascent Nutrition. And Lance is known for being a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to the quality of the products that he puts out there. And this is certainly one that he's really, really proud of. So this is pine needle extract, which promotes healthy respiratory function. Understand what that means. Supports a healthy immune system, assists brain and nervous system health, supports a healthy detoxification process. And if you can read between the lines, you know what he's talking about when he's talking about these things. And you can find out more about it. SBGAscent.com is where you would go. SBGAscent.com. You'll find out more about pine needle extract. And if you've been exposed to that little thing in a needle, this is very helpful. A lot of people were talking about this very early on, and Lance said, okay, he did the research on it, and he said, yep, it's viable, and he actually gets his pine needles from Canada. So he sourced them in a place where they're really clean, and there's no GMOs, there's no fertilizers, no pesticides, and then he creates this product. So it's a super, super, super clean product. Lewis, you use it regularly, don't you?
Yeah, well, in fact, I screwed up because it's been a little bit since I did use it, because I ended up packing it and forgot to take it out of my bag. So I always want to be honest about that. But let me tell you one thing, which is interesting. I've said many times this story, how my lungs were healed, and I believe it was Neumi. What I haven't mentioned, that in conjunction to that, I was using the pine needle extract at the same time as well. And the flavor is great. People would be very surprised by that, right? And I just put it under my tongue. It's extraordinarily affordable, and Lance has vetted the best places to farm this on earth, and he's done an incredible job, in my opinion. So talk about a very affordable solution. And if you're just trying to start now, maybe to pull yourself off of meds and get into some viable supplements, what a great starter I think this would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I use it too. I use it not every day, but I use it several times a week, because we're exposed to people who did the jabbing thing, and you're exposed to the spike proteins, and you want to be able to get that stuff out of your system. And this is one tool for that. And I know people ask all the time, what can we do? What can we do? Well, this is one tool. There are many, but this is one. This is probably one of the more important ones.
It's an excellent one. I agree.
Absolutely. All right, that brings us to the end of our exceptionally long show today, but it's okay. We love to be here. We love to share.
That was fantastic, Robert. Thank you for running the show here, and I appreciate everything you do too, my brother.
I appreciate you, Lewis, and I want to say thank you to our audience as well. So many stepped up yesterday and jumped onto the call. It was kind of fun to see faces, rather than just names in the chat room, and we're probably going to do that again, because it was really, really a lot of fun. We appreciate you. Sometimes we, get so caught up in the work and doing the show and everything that we kind of, don't really recognize that we're making an impact with everyone. And then when we see you come on and you're talking about the things we're talking about, it's like, wow, we are having an impact. So Lewis and I love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you following the channel. Make sure you're following, and if you share it, that is fantastic as well. And we come back tomorrow with ENG Anon. That's going to be a fascinating conversation.
That'll be fantastic. Yep. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.